Good evening, Patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places to be tonight, but chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. I hope that you all had a wonderful weekend, whatever you did. And if you're watching us from anywhere in the central part of America or out towards the eastern shoreboard, I hope that you're not caught up in the tragedy of the tornadoes that broke out. It's very sad what we've been witnessing over the past week with this severe weather formations that have been happening. Probably going to be billions of dollars worth of damage by the time it's all said and done. Thousands of people hurt and possibly even over 100 dead. Pretty damn tragic, to say the least. But for whatever reason, whether you want to believe it's a global warming or you want to believe it's Trump's fault, we're having a severe outbreak of tornadoes. So I just hope that in the coming month, as we go into hurricane season, we don't have that same thing happening down here in the South where I'm at. Knock on this wooden desk. Real quick, a little bit of information to put out. I will probably not be doing the show on Thursday. It all depends on whether or not I can see out of one eye. I'm having surgery tomorrow morning on one of my eyes. Got a little something going on there that's not supposed to be happening. And we're going to go in and figure that out. So, hey, I may be fine and able to do the show. But if not, just know that that may be the case. And I will put something out about that in the community section if I can't, because reading with one eye is kind of difficult to do last time I checked. So let's get right on into tonight's show. The breaking news tonight that was really good for the Trump fans and Donald Trump himself. Former President Donald Trump's classified records trial. You know, that's the one where Trump had some classified records he took as president that he says he declassified, which he has the authority to do as president, and brought them to Mar-a-Lago, and they were secured and guarded by Secret Service. Same type records that Joe Biden took when he wasn't a president. He was a Congress member and also as a vice president under Obama. He wasn't authorized to take any of those, nor did he have the power to declassify any of those. And they were unsecured in like a garage and shit. All right. And then the Department of Justice decided, we're not going to charge Joe Biden. We're just going to go after Trump. Okay. So that's the trial we're talking about here. That trial, stemming from a special counsel Jack Smith's investigation, has been postponed indefinitely. The trial was set to begin May 20th, but Judge Ilhan Cannon of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida postponed that date today. In her filing, Cannon said that due to the myriad of interconnected pretrial issues remaining and forthcoming, it would be imprudent and inconsistent with the court's duty to fully and fairly consider the various pending pretrial motions. The court, therefore, vacates the current May 20th, 2024 trial date, associated calendar call, to be reset by separate order following resolution of the matters before the court, consistent with defendant's right to due process, the public's interest in the fair and efficient administration of justice, Cannon wrote. In the filing, Cannon listed the dates of pretrial deadlines to manage pending discovery and disclosure matters and to adjudicate pretrial motions before the court. Judge Cannon scheduled a hearing that will take place tomorrow, a hearing on May 20th, and a non-evidentiary hearing for defendant Natu's motion to dismiss on May 22nd, which I don't know anything about that. Judge Cannon also scheduled deadlines for reports on May 31st, June 10th, and June 17th. And another non-evidentiary hearing on a motion to dismiss on June 21st, based on unlawful appointment and funding of special counsel. Judge also said that additional hearings would take place from June 24th to June 26th and set deadlines for disclosure from special counsel for early July and the defendant's speedy trial report for July 19th, the final day of what? The Republican National Convention. Cannon scheduled a status conference for July 22nd, another hearing for later that day. Judge Cannon did not schedule a new trial date. And as you all know, Trump was charged out of Smith's investigation and to his retention of the classified materials when Joe Biden was not. Trump pleaded not guilty to all 37 felony charges from Smith's probe, including willful retention of national defense information, conspiracy to obstruct justice, and false statements. Trump was also charged with an additional 3 counts as part of the superseding indictment out of the investigation, additional count of willful retention of national defense information, 2 additional obstruction counts. Trump pleaded not guilty to those as well. The move to indefinitely postpone the trial comes as Judge Cannon unsealed a slew of documents related to the FBI's investigation into the former president and the FBI's raid on his Mar-a-Lago, Florida estate back in 2022. The documents provided a detailed look into the personnel involved in the raid on Mar-a-Lago and a play-by-play timeline of the raid. One of the documents is an FBI file that suggests the agency's investigation into Trump's alleged mishandling of classified documents was dubbed Placemic Echo. Another unsealed FBI memo showed the role of Attorney General Merrick Garland in the investigation. In a document dated March 30th, 2022, Garland provided his approval to allow the investigation into Trump's alleged mishandling of the classified documents and upgraded it to a full investigation. This email conveyed to the Department of Justice Attorney General Merrick Garland's approval for conversation to a full investigation. Also last week, Smith and federal prosecutors admitted in a court filing that documents seized during the raid on Mar-a-Lago are no longer in their original order and sequence, which clearly means they've been gone through by who knows who. There are some boxes where the order of items within the box is not the same as the associate scans, Smith's filing states. The prosecutors have previously told the court that the documents were in their original intact form as seized, and no one has gone through them or seen them. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan is investigating whether that evidence was altered or manipulated. Well, look, let me just go out on a limb here and say if they're not in the same order they're supposed to be in, then yes, somebody went through them. Smith also charged Trump in a separate filing in Washington, D.C. out of his investigation to election interference as far as the January 6th was concerned. Trump pleaded not guilty to those charges as well. That trial is also postponed indefinitely. The Supreme Court is considering arguments on presidential immunity and whether Trump is immune from prosecution in Smith's case altogether. The High Court is expected to rule on that matter probably about mid-June next month. So, regardless, the only thing really that Trump is up against at the moment is what's happening with this Stormy Daniels bullshit. That's statute of limitation already ran out on it, and it didn't matter to the judge, and it didn't matter to the prosecution. We're still going to go after him, even though it's statute of limitations over with. We're going to make up the rule of law as we go. We're just going to get Trump no matter what. And for those of you that have been following this trial, I read the transcript at the end of every day, and it is an absolute disaster that DA Bragg, brought this case to trial. Yes, a jury came up with an indictment. You can indict a ham sandwich, for crying out loud. Doesn't take much. And the star witnesses that the DA had have turned out in Trump's favor. So I'm not quite sure what was going through this prosecutor's mind, other than we just want to try and put on this dog and pony show and embarrass this guy and keep him off the campaign trail, because that's what they're doing. So today, Stormy Daniels took the stand, and she's going to be back on the stand. I don't think they're going to be in session tomorrow. I think they're going to be in session on Thursday. And the judge already agreed that the, quote, supposedly sexual encounter details were irrelevant to this case. Anything dealing with that is irrelevant to this case. Just the fact that supposedly he used campaign money to pay off Stormy Daniels through his former attorney, which is a liar. We already know that. Cohen's going to be in cross-examination, is going to be freaking taken apart at the seams. Stormy Daniels' former attorney is begging to come from California, or at least be on Zoom to testify that this is all bullshit. Stormy Daniels herself has already written an affidavit saying that this encounter never took place, but yet they brought her in there anyhow to try and bring shame on Trump and his family, because she's making a big joke about this whole trial. To her, it's funny. She's trying to make the jurors laugh by saying nasty things about spankings and about Trump's underwear. And the judge has already said that's irrelevant. And with Trump's attorneys, standing up and going, time out, this isn't allowed, you've already ruled on that, the judge lets it go. And then at the end of the day, after the jury has been dismissed, so they don't get to hear what the judge says, he then trashes the prosecution for allowing Stormy Daniels to do what he said she can't do, which only means one thing. This is all a setup, as Trump has said all along. It is designed to keep him off the campaign trail and to humiliate him and his family. Nothing more. And in fact, even some of the cross-examination things that Trump's defense want to use, the judges ruled they can't use, because his ruling is that Stormy Daniels can't, or the prosecution can't use those things as evidence, but yet allows them to do it anyhow. Look, when it's all said and done, it doesn't matter what this jury, what they say or don't say, all right? This will be overturned on appeal if they find him guilty. Because why? Well, because you can't make up the laws as you go along. And as a judge, you cannot show bias for one side or the other. And we already know this judge has not only donated money to the DNC, but to Joe Biden's campaign, and he would not recuse himself. We already know that this judge's daughter not only worked on Kamala Harris's campaign, but also on Joe Biden's campaign, and the judge wouldn't recuse himself. This judge is a disgrace to our justice system, and they're making a mockery out of it. It's a complete and utter shit show going on. And I just hope in the long run, people are held accountable for what's happening. Regardless of what you think or don't think of Donald Trump, what's happening in our justice system with this case is wrong. It never should have been brought to trial in the first place. It had already been looked at by other DAs, by the Department of Justice, and they chose not to. They said because there's nothing there, and you can't connect these dots. And now DA Braggs realizes with the witnesses he's brought forward that he can't connect the dots that he claimed he would be able to. But he can continue this dog and pony show and just keep Trump off the campaign trail and humiliate him and his family. And that's all this is at this point. And it's pretty damn sad. Representative Don Bacon introduced today a resolution to censor Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Now, first off, I'm all for that. That's great. But you're not going far enough. You should put a resolution forward to remove her from Congress. Do the same way with Rashid Tlaib and the same way with AOC. And anyone else, the Democrat Party, that's a member of Congress, House or Senate, that supports Hamas terrorists. Period. End of story. But he put a resolution to censor her for her remarks about Jewish students. Omar spoke with pro-Palestinian protesters at Columbia University, the site of a large-scale demonstration against Israel, where her remarks drew widespread criticism. She said, "I think it is really unfortunate that people don't care about the facts, that all Jewish kids should be kept safe, and that we should not have to tolerate bigotry for all Jewish students, whether they are pro-genocide or anti-genocide," Omar said. Congressman Bacon took action. It's unacceptable to say, calling Jewish Americans that are Americans, calling them pro-genocide, he told reporters at a press conference today. It's just unacceptable. So I want to take a bold stand. He later said in his statement, the recent remarks by Representative Omar about Jewish American students being pro-genocide shows her increasing disregard for the Jewish people in our country. The House of Representatives needs to take a strong stand and condemn these divisive and racist remarks that she has made, and those who continue to excuse her outrageous behavior must stop. House Majority Whip Tom Omar previously called for an investigation with the House Ethics Committee over Omar's comments about Somalia, accusing her of expressing alliance in the interest of Somalia in a letter that was sent back in January. And I've talked about that many times on this show, about, in her mind, the real terrorist during the operation that was looking for the drug lord in Somalia. The movie Black Hawk Down was about. Omar referred to our American troops in that operation as the real terrorists. Also criticized Omar's comments at Columbia, saying her remarks were encouraging violence against Jewish students and embracing pro-terrorist extremists, which I've said as well. She is inciting violence against anyone that's Jewish, are Americans that speak out against what Hamas did. So she's a racist bigot, period. Speaking of racist bigots, Representative Maxine Waters warned, with absolutely no proof at all, that right-wing organizations connected to Trump, are you ready for this? Are training up in the hills somewhere to attack if Biden wins the election in November. Right-wing extremists are training up in the hills somewhere to attack Democrats and liberals if Trump loses. What right-wing extremists are you talking about, Ms. Waters? And what hills? It's a bunch of hills in America. You name nothing, no proof, any way, shape, or form. What I'm about to share with you folks proves her no merit bullshit continues to incite violence. California Democrat discussed the former president on MSNBC's The Sunday Show with Jonathan Capehart and warned that we better be careful about what Trump could do. She also suggested that Biden and the Justice Department get involved preemptively stopping right-wing violence. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask the Justice Department and I'm going to ask the president to tell us what they're going to do to protect this country against violence if Biden loses, she said. I want to know about all those right-wing organizations that Trump is connected with who are training up in the hills somewhere and targeting what communities they're going to attack. We need to know now, given that he's telling us there's going to be violence if he loses. We need to know what his plan is and how we're going to be protected, Waters said. Earlier in the segment, she emphasized the danger Trump poses to the U.S. You can't trust anything that Donald Trump has to say. No matter if he loses, he's going to say it was fraud. He still has not accepted what happened in the last presidential election, she said. You know, it seems to me that she forgot her sister from another mother, Hillary Clinton, still believes she won the 2016 election against Donald Trump. She went on to say, we have to be very concerned about a former president of the United States talking about attacking his own country, talking about perhaps a bloodbath, talking about perhaps there's going to be trouble. He said it in so many different ways, she added. We should take him seriously. This man does not believe in the Constitution. He wants to be a dictator. This is a dangerous human being. We have to know what our country is going to do to protect us from Donald Trump. Though Waters warned about right-wing Trump supporters attacking people in 2018, she infamously called for her supporters to publicly confront and absolutely harass members of his cabinet when she said, let's make sure we show up wherever we want and see them show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in an apartment store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd, Waters said, and you push back on them and you tell them they're not welcome anymore anywhere. We got to get the children connected to their parents. In 2021, she also called on protesters to get more confrontational if former police officer Derek Chauvin was not convicted of murdering George Floyd. when she said, we've got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active, and we got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business, Waters said. So Miss Hypocrite Waters believes Trump is inciting violence by what he says, but yet she's immune from doing it. I don't know how anybody of any party can listen to what comes out of her mouth and not go, you're the freaking pot calling the kettle black. Or are you listening to yourself? Did you forget all the hateful, bigotry, racist, horrible things that came out of your mouth that was inciting violence? And now you're making up some kind of fucking story about how Trump supporters are up in the hills somewhere training to take over the country with absolutely no proof that anything of that such is happening. You know who's up in the hills planning to take over America? Guess who, Waters? That would be Islamic terrorists that Joe Biden allowed across our southern border. That would be these students that are protesting on college campuses, becoming radicalized, supporting Hamas terrorists. What a disgrace to America that woman is. Total freaking disgrace. Speaking of disgraces to America, Robert De Niro, you know, the actor, ex-owner, Elon Musk blasted Robert De Niro on his social media platform after the Heat star compared former President Trump to infamous dictators Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini. Musk replied to a clip of De Niro's statement from MSNBC's 11th Hour with Stephanie Rule, stating that Trump's policies bore no resemblance to those of both dictators and declared that the actor's latest anti-Trump triumph makes no sense. During the segment, which aired on MSNBC Thursday evening, De Niro declared that Trump can't be anywhere near the office of the presidency and called him sick and a narcissist. There's not one redeeming thing in him I can ever see, he said. He also explained what he would say to voters who are holding their nose to vote for him in 2024 presidential election. I don't understand it. I don't think they understand how dangerous it will be if he ever, God forbid, becomes president. I don't think they really understand, he continued, comparing the former president to some of the history's worst figures. And historically, from what I've seen, even in Nazi Germany, they had it with Hitler. They don't take him seriously. He looks like a clown, Mussolini. Same thing, these guys. I don't know why they look like clowns, but it would be chaos beyond our imagination, De Niro said. Said that the idea of Trump winning the White House is just like Hitler resurrection. Once the clip hit X, Musk felt the need to speak out. He replied, well, Trump was actually already president for 4 years and his policies bore no resemblance to those of Hitler, so this makes no sense. He also pointed out an example of Trump's policies that the 20th century dictators wouldn't have persuaded, stating, in fact, with the Abraham Accords, he made some progress towards peace in the Middle East, which was definitely not high on Hitler's agenda. De Niro's anti-Trump rhetoric has been a staple of his public persona in recent years. The actor who played the villain in Martin Scorsese's 2023 crime drama Killer from the Flower Moon compared Trump to his characters in the Cannes Film Festival last year, saying they both have a feeling of entitlement that drives their evil actions. It's evil, and we see it now. I'm not going to say the name because the guy is stupid, he said. Elsewhere adding, it's like with Trump, I had to say it, he had it. There are people who think he could do a job, a good job. Imagine how insane that is. One of De Niro's most famous anti-Trump outbursts happened on stage during the 2018 Tony Awards when he clenched his fist at the microphone on stage and told the audience, I'm going to say one thing, fuck Trump. It's no longer down with Trump, it's fuck Trump. That is Hollywood actor Robert De Niro. And, you know, I would say to him, if I have the opportunity, that, you know what? All that shit that you just said, you all said that about Trump the last time he got elected when he went up against Hillary Clinton. How he's going to get us into World War III, nuclear weapons, destroy America, become a dictator. None of the shit that you claim was going to happen happened under his watch. But it's happening now under Joe Biden, and you motherfuckers aren't saying shit about it. I mean, it's insanity. Our border's wide open. The FBI is already saying there's terrorists coming across. They're here. They're waiting to attack us. Iran is coming out and cheering these students on campuses that are allowed to fucking run rampant and become radicalized. Our economy's going to shit. Our infrastructure's crumbling. Everything Joe Biden touches, he breaks. Tell me one good thing, Robert De Niro, that's happening right now. And really share something with us. Factual information that Trump did that's so freaking horrible during his 4 years as president. I mean, if it hadn't been for COVID, we would have had probably one of the best economies ever in the history of America. He kept world peace. He put North Korea in check. Hell, he was the only president to ever meet at the DNZ over in South and North Korea and step over the zone into North Korea, face to face with that dictator. He challenged the world's dictators. He called their bluff. They were scared of him. The hell's this guy going to do? He's saying if we do this or do that, he's going to send us to fucking hell and back. And then the American left is, oh, look at these mean tweets. How insensitive is this guy? That's what it's all about. It's about Trump not being politically correct. It's not about anything he did. No. It's that you little people can't stand the fact that an alpha male took presidency of the United States of America and was voted in. That's what it is. That's the bottom line. You can't stand the fact that somebody stood up to the Democrats and the left and called you out at your own damn game. You can't stand the fact that he put North Korea in check, that he put Iran in check, that he put Hamas and Hezbollah in check. He put Russia in check and said, you're not going to invade Ukraine under my watch. All the things that they said Trump would do, he didn't do. And this clown that's in there now is doing. I don't know. Speaking of Putin. President Vladimir Putin ordered Russia's military to carry out combat drills involving tactical nuclear weapons, ramping up his confrontation with the West just a day before his inauguration of the fifth term. The army will carry out exercises in southern Russia to practice the preparation and use of non-strategic nuclear weapons, the Defense Ministry said in a telegram statement that was issued yesterday. The drills involve air and naval forces are being held in response to the proactive statement and threats made by certain Western officials, it said. Putin has at times brandished the threat of nuclear weapons since his February 2022 invasion of Ukraine, with borders southern Russia. In October, Russia rehearsed its ability to deliver a massive retaliatory nuclear strike, including with the launch of ballistic and cruise missiles. In February, the Russian leader warned the Northern Atlantic Treaty Organization it risked a nuclear conflict if the alliance were to send troops to Ukraine. The U.S. and Europe must understand that we also have weapons that can hit targets on their territory, and that all this really threatens a conflict with the use of nuclear weapons, and therefore the destruction of civilization, Putin said in his annual State of the Union address. You notice nothing like that was said when Donald Trump was president? This senile motherfucker up at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue put us right back into the Cold War with Russia. And you left-wing nutjobs are freaking clueless. That threat supposedly came after French president refused to rule out sending troops to Ukraine, even as the idea was rebuffed by other NATO allies. The French president Monday is hosting Chinese president, who, despite growing diplomatic and economic ties with Russia, has warned Putin against the use of nuclear weapons. Putin later played down the threat that Russia and the West were heading towards a nuclear war, telling the state-run RIA news service on March 13th that there's never been a need to use tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine, and the thought had never crossed his mind. Although he keeps saying it, which is actually the scariest thing about this guy. He talks out the side of his ass. One day he's threatening to use nuclear weapons, and the next day he's saying, oh, the thought never crossed my mind. That's what we're up against. Cameron last week said Ukraine had the right to use weapons it received from Britain to strike Russia. The foreign minister in Moscow later summons the UK and French ambassadors. Ministry spokesperson said on her Telegram channel, the Russian president plans to travel to China for talks next week. Putin's inauguration will take place at the Kremlin today, or later today, extending his almost quarter-century rule over Russia for a future 6 years after he gained 87% support in a tightly controlled March election in which he faced no serious competition because, they were killed off. Russia has been trying to advance against embattled Ukrainian forces this year, blustering by an advantage in ammunition that was held up by our Congress. Supplies of munitions and weapons are now starting to flow to the troops in Ukraine after the U.S. approved a long-delayed $61 billion aid package last month. Yeah. I hope you're all ready for this next story. It's pretty damn embarrassing. The Boy Scouts of America. I used to be a Boy Scout. Are changing their name to Scouting America in order to be more inclusive. The switch comes as the 114-year-old organization emerges from bankruptcy after a number of sexual abuse claims. The name change was announced at the Scouts' annual meeting in Florida that took place this morning. In the next 100 years, we want any youth in America to feel free, very welcome to come into our program, CEO and President Roger Crone told the Associated Press. It sends this really strong message to anyone in America that they can come to this program. They can bring their authentic self. They can be who they are, and they will be welcomed here, Crone said. The organization has slowly opened itself, allowing gay youth and gay leadership in the last decade to include transsexuals, binary, and girls to join the Boy Scouts, which is what caused all the lawsuits of sexual misconduct. Girls were finally allowed to join the main program, at the time renaming Scouts BSA in 2019 after being allowed into Cub Scouts the prior year. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. The Boy Scouts can't go join the Girl Scouts, but the Girl Scouts can join the Boy Scouts along with any and everybody else. In the years since, more than 6,000 girls nationwide have attended the ranks of Eagle Scout, while their organization's membership has plummeted. It's more than 176,000 girls, represented over 10% of its community. The organization has been tarnished by allegations of sexual abuse and misconduct. As part of its bankruptcy recognition, the Scouts began compensating victims. The fund is expected to pay out more than $2.4 billion to more than 82,000 children that were sexually harassed or abused in the Boy Scouts after they allowed all these changes, allowing anyone in. More than 130 million have joined the Scouts since 1910, according to a news release. The name change will become official February of 2025, when the organization turns 115. Though our name will be new, our mission remains unchanged. We're committed to teaching young people to be prepared for life, the new CEO president said. This will be a simple but very important evolution as we seek to ensure that everyone feels welcome in Scouting. Yeah, everybody, bring them all in. Let them dress up as girls. Bring in transsexual story hours. Bring in boys or men that dress up as transsexuals to be scout leaders. Parents, if you're sending your kids to Scouting America, that used to be called Boy Scouts of America, you should have your kids taken away from you, and you should be charged with child abuse, because hundreds of thousands of children that were in the Boy Scouts were sexually abused by these freaks that they're allowing to come in. And it just continues. There's no end in sight. Just like what's happening on these college campuses. Some judges are far left liberal, and they're letting these kids go right back out the back door after they get arrested. And they're going right back on campus and doing the exact same thing again. And law enforcement's going, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we wasting our time? They're not even charging them. The DAs won't even charge them in some of the cases. Not all of them. Some of the administrators of these colleges have put their foot down and went, you're expelled for your anti-hatred and breaking laws on our campus and in America. But that's just a small percentage. The bigger picture here is that somehow we're supposed to cater to these little radical snowflakes that want everybody to be treated equal, except now Jewish Americans. They should be put in ovens. They should be put in gas chambers. They should be hanged, executed. What the fuck is happening on American colleges? And members of Congress are supporting this shit. And, oh, we want to censor Ilhan Omar. You couldn't make this shit up if you tried. Every day or every night I go to sleep and I think, wow, glad this day's over with. It can't get any worse than it was today. Jeez, I can't wait for tomorrow to get here. I wake up to the alerts on my phone and I go, what the shit was I thinking? Really? It's just a snowball rolling down a cold hill into a fire pit. And if we don't wake up and take a stance this November and vote these radicals out so that we can put people in positions at the FBI and Department of Justice that will actually do what they're supposed to do and treat everybody equally under the law and go after these radical kids and radical terrorists that have come across our borders. It's not if we have another 9/11. We will have another 9/11 in America, and sooner than later, because of this current administration. Mark my words. And some people still support this shit because they're absolutely clueless about reality. They get their news from TikTok or MSNBC, and it's all fake bullshit. And they just believe what comes out of these people's mouths. You know, you don't have to believe what I say. But every story I talk about, you can go in the description of every one of my shows and you can go down there and you can find all the links to where I got them from. And read it yourself. if you're not intelligent enough to listen to what I'm saying or believe what I'm saying, that's your choice. And if you think I'm full of shit, then just turn the channel. But that's not what happens these days. If you speak out against the liberal ideology that's growing across this country like a weed, then you're the problem as far as they're concerned. You're the racist bigot, not them. They want inclusion for everybody. But Donald Trump and his supporters, Republicans and conservatives, and they're even going after religious people all across America. And it's pretty sad. Our forefathers, no doubt, are looking down on us going, what in the hell have you folks allowed to happen? And why? My friends, you had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. In the description, you can see other places you can follow me across social media. Follow me there. I'll follow you as well. That's how we do this. Spread the word. If you've already done so, please subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends and family. And let's get ready for this November and voting these radicals out of office once and for all. And putting back, restoring law and order in America. And the only way that can happen, the only way, is Republicans in office. Sadly. And you're hearing it from somebody that used to be a Democrat, that woke up one day and realized this party's hijacked by a bunch of freaking lunatics. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders and their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. And again, depending on how tomorrow's surgery goes, will determine whether or not you will see me live on Thursday night. If I got to wear an eye patch and I can't open one of my eyes, then I will at least type something in the community section telling you about it. Until then, take care, everybody. God bless. Watch your six. We'll see you soon.